Oh, hello, family. God bless you. Hope everyone is feeling well and doing well. We're going to pick up at chapter 16, second book of Enoch, chapter 16, where we left off. Those men showed me great course of the moon. There are 12 great gates that are crowned from west to east, by which the moon comes and goes in its customary times. It goes in at the first gate to the western places of the sun, by the first gates with 31 days exactly, by the second gates with 31 days exactly, by the third with 30 days exactly, by the fourth with 30 days exactly, by the fifth with 31 days exactly, by the sixth with 31 days exactly, by the seventh with 30 days exactly. Excuse me. By the eighth with 31 days perfectly. By the ninth with 31 days exactly. By the 10th with 31 days perfectly. By the 11th with 31 days exactly. By the 12th in 31 days exactly. And in quotes has got the sum of the days total 365 with the year beginning in March. That'll probably be late March, early April. And it goes through the western gates in the order and the number of the eastern, and accomplishes the 365 and a quarter days of the solar year, while the lunar year has 354 and their 12 days, and there 12 days lacking of the solar circle, which are the lunar impacts of the whole year. The Great Circle also contains 532 years. The quarter is omitted for 3 years. The fourth fulfills it exactly. Because of this, they are taken outside of heaven for 3 years and are not added to the number of days, because they changed the time of the years to 2 new months toward completion, to 2 others toward the decrease. And when the course through the western gates is finished, it returns and goes to the eastern, to the lights, and goes this way day and night in its heavenly circles, below all circles, swifter than the heavenly winds, and spirits and elements and flying angels. Each angel has 6 wings. In 19 years, it travels the course 7 times. Chapter 17. In the midst of the heavens, I saw armed soldiers serving the Lord with drums and organs, with constant voice, with sweet voice, with sweet and unceasing voice, and various singing, which it is impossible to describe, and which astonishes every mind. So wonderful and marvelous is the singing of those angels, and I was delighted listening to it. Chapter 18. The men took me on to the 5th heaven and placed me, and there I saw many and countless soldiers, called Grigori, Grigori, of human appearance, and their size greater than that of great giants, and their faces withered, and the silence of their mouths perpetual. And there was no service on the fifth heaven. And I said to the men who were with me, why are there so many, so very withered, and their faces melancholy, and their mouths silent? And why is there no service in the heaven? And they said to me, these are the Grigori, who with their prince Satan, rejected the Lord of light. After them are those who are held in great darkness in the second heaven. And 3 of them went down onto earth from the Lord's throne to the place Hermon, and broke through their vows on the shoulder of the hill Hermon, and saw the daughters of men, how good they are, and took to themselves wives, and fouled the earth with their deeds, and broke the law, and mixing, giants are born, and amazingly large men with great hatred. And therefore God judged them with great judgment, and they weep for their brethren, and they will be punished on the Lord's great day. And I said to the Grigori, I saw your brethren and their works and their great torments, and I prayed for them. But the Lord has condemned them to be under earth until this heaven and this earth shall end forever. And I said, why do you stand there, brethren, and do not serve before the Lord's face, and have not put your services before the Lord's face? You could anger your Lord completely. And they listened to my advice and spoke to the 4 ranks in heaven. As I stood with those two men, 4 trumpets sounded together with a loud voice. And the Grigori broke into song with one voice, and their voice went up before the Lord pitifully and touchingly. Chapter 19. From there, those men took me and lifted me up on the 6th heaven. And there I saw 7 bands of angels, very bright and very glorious, and their faces shining more than the sun's shining, glistening, and there is no difference in their faces, or behavior, or manner of dress. And these make the orders, and learn the goings of the stars, and the alteration of the moon. Excuse me. And the alteration of the moon, or revelation of the sun, and the good administration of the world. And when they see evil doing, they make commandments and instruction, and make sweet and loud singing, and all of praise. These are the archangels who are above angels, and they measure all life in heaven and on earth, and the angels who are over seasons and years, the angels who are over rivers and seas, and who are over the fruits of the earth, and the angels who are over every grass, giving food to every and all living things, and the angels who write down all the souls of men and all their deeds, and their lives before the Lord's face. In their midst are 6 phoenixes and 6 cherubim and 6 six-winged ones continually singing with one voice. And it is not possible to describe their singing, and they rejoice before the Lord at his footstool. Chapter 20. And those 2 men lifted me up from there on the 7th heaven, up onto the 7th heaven. And I saw there a very great light, and fiery troops of great archangels, incorporeal forces, and dominions, orders, and governments, cherubim and seraphim, thrones and many-eyed ones, 9 regiments, the Ilonite stations of light. And I became afraid and began to tremble with great terror. And those men took me and led me after them and said to me, "Have courage, Enoch, do not fear," and showed me the Lord from afar, sitting on his very high throne. For what is there on the earth, on the 10th heaven, since the Lord dwells there? On the 10th heaven is God. In the Hebrew tongue, he is called Aravat. And all the heavenly soldiers would come and stand on the 10 steps according to their rank, and would bow down to the Lord, and would then return to their places in joy and bliss, singing songs in the unlimited light with soft and gentle voices, gloriously serving him. Chapter 21. And the cherubim and seraphim standing around the throne, and the 6-winged and many-eyed ones do not depart, standing before the Lord's face, doing his will, and cover his whole throne, singing with gentle voice before the Lord's face, "Holy, holy, holy, Lord, ruler of Sabaoth. Heavens and earth are full of your glory." When I saw all these things, the men said to me, "Enoch, thus far we were commanded to journey with you." And those men went away from me, and after that I did not see them. And I remained alone at the end of the 7th heaven, and became afraid, and fell on my face, and said to myself, "Woe is me! What has befallen me?" And the Lord sent one of his glorious ones, the archangel Gabriel. And he said to me, "Have courage, Enoch, do not fear. Arise before the Lord's face into eternity. Arise and come with me." And I answered him and said within myself, "My Lord, my soul has departed from me from terror and trembling." And I called to the men who led me up to this place. I relied on them, and it is with them that I can go before the Lord's face. And Gabriel lifted me up like a leaf caught up by the wind, and he placed me before the Lord's face. And I saw the 8th heaven, which is called in the Hebrew tongue, Muzalath, changer of the seasons, of drought and of wet, and of the 12 constellations of the circle of the firmament. which are above the seventh heaven. And I saw the ninth heaven, which is called in Hebrew Kuchavim, where are the heavenly homes of the 12 constellations of the circle of the firmament. Chapter 22. On the 10th heaven, which is called Avaroth, I saw the appearance of the Lord's face, like iron made to glow in fire, and it shone forth and cast it out, emitting sparks, and it burned. In a moment of eternity, I saw the Lord's face, but the Lord's face is indescribable, marvelous, and very amazing, and very, very terrible. And who am I to tell of the Lord's unspeakable being and of his very wonderful face? I cannot tell the amount of his instructions and the variety of voices. The Lord's throne is very great and not made with hands. And I cannot tell the number of those standing around him. There were troops of cherubim and seraphim, and they sang unceasingly. I cannot tell of his unchanging beauty. Who shall tell of the unpronounceable greatness of his glory? And I fell prone and bowed down to the Lord. And the Lord with his lips said to me, "Have courage, Enoch, do not fear. Arise and stand before my face into eternity." And the archangel Michael lifted me up and led me to the Lord's face. And the Lord said to his servants, testing them, "Let Enoch stand before my face into eternity." And the glorious ones bowed down to the Lord and said, "Let Enoch go according to your word." And the Lord said to Michael, "Go and take Enoch and remove his earthly garments and anoint him with my sweet ointment and put him into the garments of my glory." And Michael did as the Lord told him. He anointed me and dressed me, and the appearance of that ointment is more than the great light. And his ointment is like sweet dew, and its smell mild, shining like the sun's ray. And I looked at myself, and I was transformed into one of his glorious ones. And the Lord summoned one of his archangels, whose name is Pravul, Pravuil, Pravul, whose knowledge was quicker in wisdom than the other archangels, who wrote all the deeds of the Lord. And the Lord said to Pravil, "Bring out the book from my storehouses, and a reed of quick writing, and give it to Enoch, and deliver to him the best and comforting books out of your hand." Chapter 23. And he was explaining to me all the works of heaven, earth, and the sea, and all the elements, their passages and goings, and the surrounding of the thunders, the sun and the moon, the progression and changes of the stars, the seasons, years, days, and hours, as well as the rising of the wind, the numbers of the angels, and the formation of their songs, and all human things, the tongue of every human song and life, the commandments, instructions, and sweet-voiced singings, and all things that are fitting to learn. And Pravul told me, all the things that I have told you, we have written. Sit and write all the souls of mankind. However, many of them are born, and the places prepared for them to eternity. And he said, all souls are prepared for eternity before the formation of the world. And for both 30 days and 30 nights, and I wrote out all things exactly, and wrote 366 books. Chapter 24. And the Lord summoned me and said to me, Enoch, sit down on my left with Gabriel. With Gabriel. And I bowed down to the Lord, and the Lord spoke to me, Enoch, beloved, all that you see, all things that are standing finished, I tell you even before the very beginning. I created all things from non-being. I created the visible, physical things from the invisible, spiritual. Hear, Enoch, and take in my words, for I have not told my angels my secret, and I have not told them their rise, nor my endless realm, nor have they understood my creating, which I tell you today. For before all things were visible, physical, I alone used to go about in the invisible, spiritual things, like the sun from east to west, and from west to east. But even the sun has peace in itself, while I found no peace because I was creating all things, and I conceived the thought of placing foundations, and of creating the visible, physical creation. Chapter 25. I commanded in the very lowest parts that the visible, physical things should come down from the invisible, spiritual. And a Adol came down very great. And I beheld him, and he had a belly of great light. And I said to him, become undone, Adol, that's Adoil, and let the visible, physical, come out of you. And he came undone, and a great light came out. And I was in the midst of the great light. And as there is born light from light, there came forth a great age, and showed all creation, which I had thought to create. And I saw that it was good. And I placed for myself a throne, and took my seat on it, and said to the light, go up higher from here, and station yourself high above the throne, and be a foundation to the highest things. And above the light, there is nothing else. And then I rose up and looked up from my throne. Chapter 26. And I summoned the very lowest a second time and said, let Arcus come forth hard. And he came forth hard from the invisible spiritual. And Arcus came forth hard, heavy, and very red. And I said, be opened, Arcus, and let there be born from you. And he came apart, and an age came forth, very great and very dark, bearing the creation of all lower things. And I saw that it was good, and said to him, go down below and make yourself solid, and be a foundation for the lower things. And it happened, and he went down and stationed himself, and became the foundation for the lower things. And below the darkness, there is nothing else. Chapter 27. And I commanded that there should be taken from light and darkness. And I said, be thick. And it became thick. And I spread it out with the light, and it became water. And I spread it out over the darkness below the light. And then I made firm the waters, that is to say, the bottomless. And I made foundation of light around the water, and created 7 circles from inside, and made the water look like crystal, wet and dry. So it was like glass, and the circles were around the waters and the other elements. And I showed each one of them its path, and the 7 stars, each one of them in its heaven, that they go that way. And I saw that it was good. And I made separations between light and darkness in the midst of the water here and there. And I said to the light that it should be the day. And I said to the darkness that it should be the night. And there was evening and there was morning on the first day. Chapter 28. And then I made firm the heavenly circle, and made that the lower water which is under the heaven collect itself together into one whole. WHOLE. And that the chaos become dry, and it became so. Out of the waves I created hard and large rocks, and from the rock I piled up the dry, and the dry I called earth. And the middle of the earth I called the abyss, or the bottomless. I collected the sea in one place and bound it together with a yoke. And I said to the sea, behold, I give you eternal limits, and you shall not break loose from your integral parts. Thus I made the firmament hold together. This day I called me the first created, Sunday. Chapter 29. And for all the heavenly soldiers, I made them the image and the essence of fire. And my eye looked at the very hard, firm rock, and from the gleam of my eye, the lightning received its wonderful nature, which is both fire in water and water in fire. And one does not put out the other, nor does the one dry up the other. Therefore, the lightning is brighter than the sun, softer than water, and firmer than hard rock. And from the rock I cut off a great fire, and from the fire I created the orders of the incorporeal. 10 troops of angels, and their weapons are fiery, and their raiment a burning flame. And I commanded that each one should stand in his order. And one from out the order of angels, having violated the commands he was given, conceived an impossible thought, to place his throne higher than the clouds above the earth, so that he might become equal in rank to my power. And I threw him out from the height with his angels, and he was flying in the air continuously above the bottomless. Thank you for listening, family, enjoying the story. And God bless you. And I'll talk to you soon.